stream that we're gonna have.
Perfect. I see that. Yep, little delay on it.
Yeah, we might not be able to do anything about that, but it's mostly going to be a podcast, anyways. So this is just like a little extra perk. So let me just let me so we're live actually. That hasn't stopped, but we haven't started recording yet. So let me just get a sound check from the other room, and we'll get going.
Sounds good, brother. Adjust this camera around, get centered. Nice. James, bring the talk, man. Bring the money. How's the sound check? Testing. 1, 2.
Yeah, we're in the middle of it. 1 second. Do you have a hard stop, Gualter?
I do at 2 p.m. I got another client I'm working with.
Okay.
I'm all yours till then, brother.
You belong to the people, not to me.
That's it.
Let me get my notes up here, okay? So let me just check the audio. 1 second.
Sure.
Test, test, test. Okay. Test 1, 2, 3. Test, test, test. All right, Walter, we're going. Here we go. Oh, here we go. So it's really going to be in the hands of the production gods, and we'll see if it all comes out all right. Again, this is the first time that I'm doing it with a live stream, recording it at the same time, and going through GarageBand. So there's a lot going on my end, but I think we're good. So we'll kick it off. Walter, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, James. Good to be here, brother.
It's been a while.
It has. So let me know, what is the format? What are your listeners into? What are they looking for?
Yeah, so we're gonna just we're gonna go over this book, a book that you wrote, Broke to $250,000. It's a good read, solid book. Links in the description to purchase the book. Yeah, man, it's like there's a wide range of listeners, different subject matters, but always around like that idea of self improvement, entrepreneurship, and I think your book kind of goes over a lot of those things. You've dealt with, you obviously dealt with some adversity. Grew up in Fall River from immigrant parents. Very, very relatable. Obviously, that was one of the first notes that I have here. It's a very relatable book. Even some of the stories you have, flipping houses, going through construction projects, all that craziness. Mom throwing lap boards into the flames. I've been there, man. So yeah, I just taking some time to kind of pick your brain, bring you on, hear about those stories, maybe get a little background. Also, maybe help anybody that's maybe interested in real estate kind of get an idea about real estate investing?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love it. Part of the mission is 100 millionaires inspired to build 100 millionaires. So, like, we made our money, now we're paying it forward. And the books are a pain in the butt to write, to be perfectly honest. That first book took over 6 months to write, but took me 2 years before I published it because you're afraid that people are going to be judging you, right? Especially the people from the city, like who were there while I was doing everything. I wasn't exactly the nicest person in that book. So I called people out and stuff, and but I didn't say their names. Like that was the one thing I ended up like I was very proud of at the end of it. I didn't use anybody's names, but if you read the book, you know who they are. And it's not easy building a business, man. You're gonna make enemies. You're gonna make a lot of friends, but building a business is totally worth it if you want options in life, right? Like James, you get it. You're financially free. You do what you want to do. You come and go as you please. You invest in what you want to invest in. And before any of the financial freedom that a business can give you, it's like, dude, like every day you're stuck going to work. You're stuck doing what you're told. You're stuck not having options. You can't, bring your kids to, vacation, 6 times a year, unless you've been in a company for 20 years. Which, let's be real, what company keeps people around for 20 years anymore? It's easier just to replace you with somebody new than to train you. And like life just you run out of options. I remember, growing up. I'm sure James, you remember, like you wanted stuff, and you'd be like, hey, can I get that? And your parents would be like, no, we don't have the money. I hated that. I hated that sentence.
Yeah. I still think there's some value in still playing that role though with young kids. You're not a parent, are you?
No, not yet. No.
Okay, so I am. So sometimes I'll play that tough guy role. Like yeah, like I know you could have that, whatever, but we're gonna make you know the value of dollar. I still think there's a lot of value in that. So I definitely always admire the character of people around this area just because of that sort of hardship that's there. Even if they were off well with good parents, I think a lot of people still had that grit and hard work still pushed into them. So that's awesome, Gualter. Your aha moment came, you growing up in Fall River, no college, Portuguese immigrant parents. A lot of people can relate to that today, right? So tell me a little bit more about that aha moment, like when you decided, like, hey, I'm gonna get into real estate.
I was driving. Well, I wasn't driving. This was actually I was like riding my lawnmower. I'm walking it across the yard, and I'm cutting the grass. And I'm just thinking, man, like, my grandfather was the landlord because he cut grass, I cut grass. It was like just kind of coming in my head. Then I realized, like, dude, I'm the lord of the land. Oh my god, like I own all this real estate, like this quarter of an acre. And then I was like, man, like, why is nobody paying me rent? It was like just in a moment where I realized I'm a landlord that doesn't pay rent. I'm like a landlord of crickets, grasshoppers, and frogs. And like this is the pits. This is terrible because I'm paying a mortgage I've got to go to work for. I'm paying gas bills, electric bills. I'm paying for maintenance, and I'm out here sweating doing this grass work. And something clicked in me where I was just like, man, like, why did I buy a single family house when I knew I wanted a multifamily? Like, I knew a multifamily was financial freedom, and it just brought me back to, oh, my wife wanted a single family house. Like, okay, we got the single family. I'm not happy. She's happy. What's going on here? Like, is my life supposed to be like this? The rest of my life supposed to work for somebody, including my wife? Now I'm supposed to work to do whatever she wants. And like, this is my life. I do whatever everybody around me wants me to do. And I wake up every one day and I'm just like, thank God I'm dead.
Oh, jeez, yeah, no, we don't want that.
And I just snapped, and I was like, no, you know what? I'm gonna sell this house. Well, that wasn't really the first decision. The first decision was I'm just gonna go buy more real estate. I thought I could get away with it at 3%, like I bought my first one, but none of the banks wanted to hear it.
Right.
Man, like if you try to buy a house 3% down, and you own a single family, the banks just laugh at you. It's like, no, sorry, that was only for the owner occupieds. So I went down that rabbit hole of how do I make more money, and I got into stock trading, and I lost just as much as I made. Maybe down a little bit at the end of it, and then I just started reading and reading and reading. Everybody was talking about this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Every article I read, every blog I read, and so I didn't read the book like an idiot, and I started buying real estate. Though I found bigger pockets, I started buying real estate, and it wasn't until after I was a millionaire and teaching courses that I finally like read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, holy crap, this could have saved me years. Like just reading this one book would have cut so many years of me googling and being on the internet and trying different things out. I could have just like cut across it.
Right.
And yeah, crazy story, man.
Yeah. The whole idea about just having multiple streams of income, right? And that's really what multifamily investment gets you into. You know, so many good points you made in that. You know, in that little, in what you just said. Um, you know, the whole idea of 3% down. I actually encourage anyone that's not the right play, especially not in a hot market, right? You can't go in with 3% down. If you don't have cash, then you have to at least have 20-25% for non-owner occupied. So yeah, that's it's funny that you mentioned that, and but you did mention something in this book that I think it's at the end of chapter 2. After I got a really big LOL out of like the the basement story that you mentioned, where it's like they like had rotten wood sills and like somebody decided to like, I think you said a bunch of people got together, drank too much alcohol, and decided to dig up a foundation to like make a full size basement. I was literally laughing out loud as I was reading the book. I love the way the book is written, Gualter. It's so easy to read, and maybe it's because I know you personally. Like I can hear your voice in my head.
It's possible, man. I mean, like that. The stories are real, legit stories that would freak a person out. Like buying these houses, I was just like, dude, why would anybody do this? I used to get scared just walking in that basement, like looking at a dirt wall, like a wall of dirt with rocks, and
no field stone, nothing, right?
Like no cement in front of it, like no legitimate foundation. It's just you look at it, it's just like 3 feet of dirt, and then rocks are still on top, and you can see like the dirt is eroding underneath. So I used to like take dirt and like throw it back at the wall.
Yeah, sketchy.
A dirt floor,
Sketchy. So sketchy, I thought that was funny, but you mentioned one thing there, though. Like one thing that I kind of want to ask you about. So this whole idea of like single families a liability, right? That's something that we've heard. If you're in this area, like you hear that all the time, right? Don't buy a single family. I think Grant Cardone says the same thing. Buy things that make you money. Rent where you own, live where you rent where you live. However, like one of the things that I want to like just ask you about is like, what about like that idea of like actually providing, and like not maybe providing is not the wrong word, but how about just getting to that point where you do want to live in a single family, because there's a lot of comfort that comes with that, So how do you feel about that, right?
So one, like my most viral video on Facebook Reels is a video where I'm like, dude, I lived over here while all my stuff I owned was over there. I had 25 units over here, and I'm renting in somebody else's apartment. And everybody's like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Or like, hell yeah, that's what I'm doing, because they're following Grant Cardone. But the truth of it is, like Warren Buffett says, you can have anything you want if you buy them in the right order. Right? Like if you buy assets in the right order, you can live however you want to live. And the problem is people want the single family too soon, and it slows down their development because they're avoiding the compound effect. So like if you put, say we'll say, first house cost you $25,000 down. You did it 3% down, owner occupied, maybe you weren't in a hot market. So 25,000. Imagine you bought real estate that was an investment property that's bringing back, we'll say, a 12% cash on cash return, plus the 5% appreciation each year, plus it's getting you amortization of the loan. So let's just assume you're paying down the loan 3%. So you've gotten yourself into this 20% every year. That's only if it's with tenants, right? It's only if it's rented out, and you're depreciating the asset. So you're saving a little bit of income on your taxes. So let's call that 1%, right? So now you've got 21% every year for, let's say, the first 2 or 3 years. You do this. You buy one house per year for 3 years. That's now 20% on, let's say, a $300,000 house. Another 20% on another $300,000 house, plus the 20% you earned the year before. So now it's 40% in year 2. Year 3, that's 60%. If you bought that single family home, you have no money to buy the next houses. Right. And that's the math. But the third house can pay for the single family home.
Yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely. So that's how you feel about it. So that's kind of what I just wanted to clarify a little bit, right? Because you hear these stories about Grant Cardone. You know that guy's not living in an apartment, right? Elon Musk isn't living in a 40,000 apartment, right? Like, I mean, maybe he is. I mean, he is kind of, he is wild.
Elon grandma sold all his houses, and he does rent. And Grant Cardone did not live in something he owned until about 2 years ago. About 2 years ago, he bought a luxury house down in Miami. But for the entire time, I still rent. Like even me personally. And the reason being, I don't know if I'm going to be here next year. In fact, I know I'm moving to Austin, Texas next year. So it's like we just kind of fluctuate. I don't want to deal with buying a piece of real estate that's going to be difficult to sell in a down market, right? If I know that I'm not going to be here in a year from now, I'm not going to get into real estate.
Right.
Real estate is something that's very long term.
Absolutely, yeah, because that's like kind of like the secret sauce, right? If you can buy something and hold it for long, then it's almost guaranteed it's a good investment. If you're playing short short game, it's a little difficult to nobody can predict anything. So I think that's an important thing to mention. It really does depend on your goals. So if you do have a family, you're going to be settled down, you have a lot of family in the area, then maybe line things up in a way. Maybe the order is important, right? But maybe perhaps it's like maybe a single family shouldn't be looked at as a terrible investment, like because at the end of the day, why work? Like so because I've struggled with this. And this is why I ask you, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know our time is limited. But I've asked personal mentors of mine like, hey, what do I do, right? Because we're renting, we own investments, but we want to be on our own. So what do we do? And it's really like at the end of the day, what are you working for?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to.
The way I look at it is just buy more investments, right? Like if you're struggling, this is not for you. This is for everybody, right? If you're struggling with paying for something that you want, go and invest in something that's going to pay for it. Like just go bigger on the investments. Like borrow money, like find a better deal, hunt harder, build a business, do whatever you got to do so that like you don't even think about those expenses. I remember when Ron and I were building the Agent Alchemist business, like the real estate business, we were spending like $15,000 a month every month, and we were outspending our competition. And that was why like the company grew so big, because we weren't concerned about like taking profits right away. We had the investment properties that were covering us, and we had our own deal. We were doing deals as agents to cover our own bills, and we said, okay, like everything goes back into the business. Even now, we still do that with Alchemist Nation. We'll have $30,000-$40,000 spend months where we're just like, yep, run it back to development, run it back to marketing, and because we're willing to delay that gratification, the company gets bigger every single month because of like that. That just don't take too early, right? Like don't take from the golden goose too early is, I guess the lesson. And a lot of broke people don't understand this, man. Like people are broke because they have short-sightedness. Like they're short-sighted. They're not looking at the future.
Right.
You have that long vision. That's why you're like, hey, we're gonna rent for a little while, but yeah, I want that. I want to own that single family. Cool. Buy something or increase your income. So it doesn't matter. So you don't even worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you get to the point where your rental, your investments pay for the single family, then that's a great position to be in.
Yeah, just don't let the house. Don't work for the house. Don't ever let yourself work to have things.
Yeah.
Like invest so that you don't have to work. That's the goal. And then
Awesome.
invest so you can have things. But don't work to have things. That's backwards thinking. That'll just keep you doing that forever. When you're working to build an asset that'll pay for things, that's cool. Like that's smart.
Yeah, that's really good. And like obviously you've been out there. Are you in Miami now?
I'm in Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
Sunny Tampa.
Sunny Tampa, dude. I'm very jealous. Jealous. I'm out here south of Boston in lovely Fall River, Mass, dealing with a lovely day, 40-degree weather, but it's raining. I'll take the 40 degrees over the teens that we've had,
I'm telling you, I was in Boston last week, and it was like the day it snowed. The day it snowed is the day I landed.
Yeah, and then the day before that was probably like 50.
That's what everybody told me. I landed, I was speaking at the multifamily network, and they were like, oh man, like you brought the cold weather. It's like, no, I didn't bring the cold weather. You scheduled a cold day.
So that's funny. So like one of the ththings that you mentioned in chapter 3 is like the importance of getting your real estate license, and you got your real estate license as you were already starting your investment journey. Awesome. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm actually have my reinstatement papers here too. So tell me about like why that's so important, and why like as an investor, like why you should consider getting your real estate license, and tell me more about these like real estate investment, the groups, all these multifamily groups, or whatever that it was that you were just a part of.
Yeah, I love it, man. I get asked all the time by wholesalers and investors, and and they're like, "Oh man, like, should I get my license?" And my answer is, how bad do you want to make extra money doing the same things you're doing anyway? Right? If you're already calling sellers to wholesale deals or buy your own properties, you're letting money go out the window by not having a license to go and like collect that check because they can't sell to you at a discount, right? They're not going to sell you the property. That doesn't mean they're not going to go sell the property. They're already having the conversation, make the money, right? So there's that side of it, and then there's the practice side. It's getting in the corridor. I'm thinking of a book. It's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And he talks about get in the corridor of the business, right? Get into the lane however you can and like learn for free, learn on somebody else's dime. So I started working with investors. I started helping other investors buy real estate. I was learning their negotiating skills. I was learning their criteria, and I was learning how to operate with the documents, like what to ask for, what not to ask for. And I was just like getting practice, and I was learning the market better, because they're like sending me out on appointments.
Mm-hmm.
So the license helps in so many different avenues. Plus, it gives you access to MLS. That alone that was originally the reason I got it. I just didn't want to deal with any agents and see like all the stuff that was online. But you get a lot of income out of it. You get in the corridor, practice the skills, and I would focus on working with buyers right now. It's seller's market, cool, work with buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want more buyers, go to the RIAs. I'm a speaker in the National RIA. I'm a speaker at the Boston RIA. I'll be speaking in Tampa Bay RIA actually in a month. And mid-year, I'll be at the National Real Estate Investors Association speaking as one of the only 3 speakers on the stage to all the RIAs in the country, talking about how Alchemist Nation is built and how real estate investing is imperative for today's generation. Like just rethinking how the RIAs operate.
That's awesome, man. That's quite the accomplishment.
It's the coolest thing ever, dude.
Yeah.
I grew up in the RIAs. I learned everything there the last 12 years. So.
That's awesome. In this book, you go through a bunch of different challenges. You go through you and your ex-wife splitting. You go through, essentially being negative 25K, broke, down and out, going through ups and downs, just like everyone does. But you manage to keep a positive attitude towards things. And one of the things that I think I just want to touch on is like the idea that like it's one of the things I think you mentioned in chapter 4 when you kind of talk about you start going to the gym, right? You think, hey, me and my girl are, we're on different ends, and perhaps I just got to get a 6-pack and build up my chest a little bit or something, right? And you start working out with her, and it turns out to be probably a bad decision because I don't want to. I mean, if you want, the book is worth the read because it turns out your wife starts seeing your cousin.
Yeah.
Okay, it's crazy.
So it's like
absolutely. It's entertaining in many ways.
Yeah, we can look at it. Was it a bad thing or was it a good thing? Was it just speeding up the inevitable?
I guess I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it hurts me to even say it because that must have been a very tough situation.
Yeah, I would say up to that point in my life, I was not an emotional person. I would just break through walls with my mind, like nothing could hurt me. And during that period, man, I cried more than I have to this day ever cried in my entire life. I would not admit it to anybody. I had no idea how to handle emotions. Like I was just a mess. Like I was not just financially broke. In the saying that I use now when I speak is worth less, right? Like a baby is worth more than I was worth. Like a baby would be worth 0. I was worth less than 0, right? These cards, I was misusing them, and I had no stream of income, and I was just emotionally broken. It was like not just money broke. Like I was emotionally broken, and unfortunately, yeah. So, ex-wife now, but wife at the time, started seeing my cousin who was teaching me how to work out in the gym, and
tough.
So many awkward moments.
When I read the book a couple times, and every time I read it, I forgot about it, right? And I read it again, I'm like, oof, damn, turn that knife in and twist it,
The crazy thing is there were so many signs, James. There were so many signs that just didn't want to see it. Denial.
Well, again, like on a personal level, like we know each other. We've hung around. We've worked on projects together, and it's like I know that you're, your facade to the rest of the world is very easygoing guy. Don't let things bother you. I think you'd probably take in a lot of shit before you destroy something. And I could see how that could happen. And don't take that in any way offensive. I think
Truth,
having that strength is very admirable. But the reason why I bring that whole thing up though is because like you mentioned in the book that you gained you gained some size in the gym. You stood disciplined, and your family members were saying, "Hey, wow, Walter, you've been like going to the gym, right?" And like if anybody starts working out, try to lose weight, gain muscle, whatever the goals are, when you get that exterior acknowledgement and like that validation, like you feel good about it. And tying that in with something else that you mentioned here, I think it's like the 52-to-1 rule, where it's like read a book a month or a week, read a book a
Yeah.
week, and like I really think like that. It's just worth noting here, like you obviously are a person that you have that discipline and that strength to keep to have that perseverance. So, and I think that's very something that we'd like to instill in all of our listeners. Anyone that reads like listens to this podcast is that whole idea of discipline and trying to come up with that. So you want to tell us a little bit more about like truly how you felt going through that time and what kept you going?
Yeah, my girlfriend, like Dorina, she actually asked me this week. She's like, "Man, like I don't think I'm as disciplined as you." And I was like, "No, don't worry. Everybody's as disciplined as me. They just don't know it. They don't know the secret to discipline." And like that secret changed my life, and I fortunately learned it early on. My dad said, "Don't do anything that you wouldn't want to do again tomorrow." Right? So like I recognized early on, because I have an addictive personality. You put me into something, I stay in it for a very long period of time. And he told me that like this is a very dangerous thing. If you start something, you're probably gonna do it again. And I just thought about that a lot as a kid, and as an adult, I realized anything that I did, I had to do a lot of times. So it just kind of created this accident in my head. It was an accidental creation of discipline. But the secret to discipline is don't make decisions. Right? Everybody's like, oh, you got to be decisive. You got to make decisions. People hate making decisions. They're painful. They're annoying. They're stressful. They're chaotic, but they create so many opportunities to ignore decisions, right? To like not make a decision. The truth to discipline and the whole decisiveness thing is stick with your decisions. Like once a decision is made, it clears the table. You never have to make that decision again. So when like I look like a decisive person because once I've made a decision, I will not review it. I'm too lazy to go review it again. But it really comes out of laziness. It's like, nope, worked hard to make that decision. Now that it's done, I'm committed. So if I decide I'm going to the gym tomorrow at 5 o'clock and every day for the next 3 years, and that's what I'm doing every day for the next 3 years, I don't have to question 5 o'clock anymore. And if somebody comes into my world and says, "Hey, what are you doing at five?" Nothing. You're like, you meet me at the gym and you're gonna do leg day with me or you're gonna do arm day with me. But that's about like you want to hang out. You're hanging out at the gym at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, right? Like that's and I would just stick to things to build assets because it's a compound effect. Just like real estate, I said, like I'm gonna buy a house every year for the next 5 years until rich. And with Alchemist Nations, I put on 10 people every day to the platform. If I don't put 10 people on alchemiststation.com, I'm texting people like, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? It gets nuts, man. But like that insane barrier of like with my crypto investments, I have to put in $5,000 a month every month. If I don't, I'm like, I have failed myself. And like so, discipline is just a decision making process, and I don't change my decisions. I don't change the things that I've decided to do.
I love
So
that.
I'm careful with what I decide on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never heard it put that way. That's a cool way to look at it, man. Yeah, like hey, I'm gonna
You gotta be lazy in decision making,
every
right?
day.
Make
Yeah,
the
every day.
decision, never do it again.
Yeah, there's a lot that comes from like that steamroll, that snowball effect, and man, day in day out, those compound gains, man. That's where it's at. We underestimate what we can do uh, in a day, and we overestimate what we can do in a year, right? Oh, no, the
Tony
opposite, right?
Robbins. Oh yeah.
The opposite of that, actually. So it's like that's really good. That's well said, Walter. Well said. Do you still
Thank you,
work
man.
out? You still read?
Yeah, man. That's read a book a week. 52. So the idea is 52 books a year gives me a 52-to-1 advantage over the average American because the average
Absolutely.
American reads one book and guess what? They don't even finish that book. They
Right.
read through one chapter of the book, if that. So we're getting the same advantage CEOs have. CEOs read 50 to 60 books a year. So everybody in Alchemist Nation, everybody on the community goes and reads a book a week. And I've printed the 52 books that I suggest for the first year and second year. And yeah, they're the same. Read the same books again. Read them twice. Read them 3 times. All these books behind me, 350. It's like 380 books. them twice, some of them 3 times, a few of them over 100 times. Like the Science of
Nice.
Getting Rich or Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
I
I've
love
read those.
the
Yeah,
science of
well
getting
over 100.
Science of Getting Rich is a good one.
Hell yeah, it's a
Yeah,
game changer,
yeah,
man.
it
I
really
read
is.
it every Sunday.
Yeah, it's a great one to read on Sundays. Dude, so one of the I know we're running short on time, so one of the things that you mentioned, right, and like I'm gonna, you said that you had this aha moment when you went to Vegas.
Yeah,
When you left, the Northeast, you went out west, completely different lifestyle. You didn't really elaborate on why or what those things were. Could you maybe speak a little bit to that?
yeah, man. There's so many differences on the West Coast and the East Coast. So one, it's cold all the time. In the West Coast, there's never depression around the weather. It's like never, oh man, I can't believe it's snowing. I won't be able to drive for the next 3 days. Or I've got to be careful on the road. Like there's so much willpower we're not losing on the West Coast because we're not concerned about like staying alive. Like when you get behind a car and there's black ice in New England, like you have to genuinely be concerned whether anybody else is going to slide into you and you could die, right? Like it's just a reality in New England. In Vegas, not like didn't exist. I went for an entire 18 months without ever seeing snow. So that was like one change. Another change was the money, the amount of money, dude. I was hanging out in casinos. Just walking around, watching people. I'd see this wealth, like people pulling out tens of thousands of dollars, putting on table like chips, like stacks, mountains, dude. And I had the guts to go up to these guys and ask them, "Hey, man, like, what do you do?" And I expected drug dealer every time, like every time, because I grew up in Fall River. Like every time I expected to hear drug dealer, and I would hear like, "Oh, I invested in real estate. Own a bunch of houses out in North Dakota, or I own a rubber band company." Rubber band company, never thought of that, right? I own a cabinet company. Like I met a guy who owned a cabinet, handled cabinets. Like all they do is like the little the furnishings that go on cabinets, and coffee bean companies. Like I'm just like these people are so cool and nice. I'm walking up to them at a table. I'm sitting down. I'm barely getting. I'm like pick up like small little chips just to talk to them. I don't even know how to play the freaking games, man. Like I'm just there to talk. And it was like every week I would go out and do this once a week, and I would meet these people, and I just started realizing like they're all the same as me. They just know that there's more money out there, and I never knew. Like being in Vegas, I learned that there was more money. And like in Fall River, like who do we have? We got Tony Cadero, who's rich. We got Jeff Leary now, who owns Prestige, and a handful of other guys. And like even like my mentor, I met this guy like in the bar who was just wearing a t-shirt and jeans. Like he wasn't suited up. Quiet guy. You'd never see him if you didn't go to this particular cigar bar. So like I thought I had no perspective of success until I came back from Vegas. You gotta meet these people. You gotta talk to them. You gotta see the money, see the wealth. I drove a Lambo, right? And it wasn't my Lambo. Like, it was somebody else's Lambo who invited me along, and I was like, "What is this? Like, how do they have this wealth?" Like because I was so admiring of them. Like I'd go out and be like, "Dude, it's so cool what you've accomplished." And they're like, "Oh man, like let me teach you. Like, come hang out with me." It's like what? Like why are you spending this time with me? So it totally changed my perspective.
Yeah. So like if there might be some people listening from Fall River, and if they so like what kind of like what locations would you recommend people to go travel to spend some time at? Like what does that look like? Where are those places?
Yeah, you don't have to do what I did, right? Like I spent 3 months in Las Vegas to get my mind right, but you could spend 3 days in Miami and just walk Miami. You could spend New York's a pain in the butt. I'm not a huge like I know there's a lot of wealth in New York. I just can't stand the traffic. I can't stand there's more broke people in New York than there are rich people. So like you don't get a really good perspective on wealth. But if you go down to like Boca Raton in Florida, if you go to Del Rey, if you hit there's another one, but like those high net worth
Naples.
areas,
Naples.
Naples. That's what I was thinking of. Yep. Those high net worth areas, you're going to see a totally different lifestyle, totally different way of living, and you can talk to these people, and they'll explain. Like, look for somebody with gray hair driving a nice car,
Or a great beard, or a great beard.
Gray beard works. Mine's coming in.
Yeah, me too, man. This is because of my new renovation project.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But it'll be worth it. That's awesome, Gualter. Last thing, man, before we summarize the book, and I want you to tell me what top things anyone will take away from it. A last thing that I just want to bring before we get to that, though, is this idea of scaling. So critical to you know any idea that we have. You've given me some great points on scaling businesses and really almost like running your business idea through like the scaling lens, right? And it's like if it doesn't make sense, if there's no scalable outcome, then drop it, right? Um, Tell me about scale. Tell me about scale and real estate, and tell me about scale and some of the other businesses that you're doing, and tell me a little bit about real estate alchemist. Like I'm not even sure I know all about that. What you got going on there?
Yeah, wow. Big, that's a lot of questions. So, one, alchemistnation.com is a free training resource for anybody who is looking to grow and build their business. Scale, I put a lot of that into my latest book, Names on Deeds, right? So, Scale is in here. You can get the workbook for free if you go to namesondeeds.com, or you can buy it for 30 bucks on Amazon. Choose free. And the the concept of thinking big, I was listening to the book. One Thing by Gary Keller literally this morning just to get my mind right, and it was listening to the chapter on think big, and it reminds me like, dude, I never thought I'd own $14 million worth of real estate. Like, I swear to God, I never thought that. It was like not in my scope ever, and until I started saying, okay, I want to own $1 billion worth of real estate. When I started saying like, okay, $1 billion worth of real estate, and even now I'm like, do I really want $1 billion worth of real estate, or do I want $1 billion net worth? And that's become the reality. That's why you see me pushing Alchemist Nation so hard, because Alchemist Nation, I have I have seven other businesses now, seven other like actual businesses that are partners because they were students of mine in Alchemist Nation. Like, their skills, their mindsets were so right. Yeah, they paid me for coaching and training, but then like they became business partners with me, and now like they're making way more than they ever paid me in training or coaching or mentoring. So like, if I wasn't thinking, man, I want to serve the planet. If I wasn't thinking, I want to build $1 billion business, because that billion means you got to serve masses. You got to serve the entire country. You got to serve the planet, and that's what got me thinking, how do I serve more? And okay, I want to have 100 millionaires, and like 100 millionaires that become multimillionaires. So 100, people who have our net worth of 10 million, that's $1 billion, and then it just became like, I'm just going to build these entrepreneurs and make them partners of mine and have a conglomerate under Alchemist Nation of ethical, moral people who do business legally, who are changing the planet. And that's what alchemistnation.com is all about. Like, that's what we built it for, was serve more, be more. And if I wasn't aiming that big, James, I wouldn't be pulling in nearly $100,000 a month right now. Like, if I wasn't aiming that big, like, give me 3 years, we'll pull in $1 million a month. Like, just give me long enough, like, because if you don't aim at it, you'll never hit it. Like, that's just the truth I've learned. Like, life's always given me what I asked for. Unfortunately, like at the beginning, I was just like, I want to get $10,000 passive income, and that was my big goal. And it took 5 years to get there because that's what I thought it would take. Now, if you ask me to start like a business that makes $10,000 a month passive income, I do it in a year. I do it in 3 months. It's like insanity, because like that's what I knew was. I thought that was all that was possible. Now I know, because I aim higher now.
That's
And what messed me up, 2 weeks, a month ago, I talked to a billionaire, had him on the phone, and I was talking to him, and he was like, "Dude, you think too small." I was like, "Shit."
I completely understand what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I feel what you're saying. So tell me specifically though, like what are some of the scaling techniques, procedures, tools, things that you have in place?
You gotta start with the goal. From the goal, you work your way backwards. So, like, perfect example of a person who wants to own $1 billion worth of real estate. Start with a 10,000 unit goal. So that's really what it would be worth, right? 10,000 units at 100,000 a piece. That's $1 billion. Start the 10,000 unit goal and start telling everybody that you're looking to do it, and ask them who can connect you. Like, sexy goal. It's got to be a sexy goal. Step one, sexy goal, big goal, 10,000 units. Second step is start telling, like paint a vision of like where those units would be. So come up with like a portfolio, a mock portfolio. If you want one, you can go to Blue Rock Capital, and like they have their portfolio right on their website. So just like go and be like, okay, this is what it would look like, exactly this. like 100, 500 unit buildings, or 200, 500 unit buildings. Like that's how you build their portfolio, and then go and tell everybody you're the next Blue Rock, Black Rock. Like, let's just do that. Like, sexy goal, document, like make it visible so people can see it, and then three, go tell everybody. The money will show up, the deals will show up, and the people who want to work for you will show up.
I love it.
If you don't talk about what you're doing, you'll stay broke.
I love the
True.
positive affirmation. Absolutely. What about the tools to help you scale? Like, what are you doing to help scale your alchemist? How are you getting those 10 enrollments a day?
No, I just let people know that I'm doing it. So my alchemistnation.com is scaling because of my ambassadors. I've
Okay.
incentivized my ambassadors to, and I've just told them, look, guys, you're paying it forward. Thank you so much. Hey, who do you know? Who do you know? Like, can you get 10 people on here? And I just made a point system. So, like, you get 10 people on the platform. You're bronze. You're nothing until you've invited somebody. Then you get 10 people, you become silver. Then you invite 25 people, then you become gold. And now I've got a challenge for somebody who gets to the 100 people invited on the platform. There's going to be a big surprise and an award delivered at the 100 Millionaire Summit in Orlando in October. So it's like incentive tiers, and just like being the kind of person who would do it for somebody else also. Or like, I've promoted other people's businesses, other people's careers for years. So when I'm like, hey, like, I want to serve more people. I want to serve your family. I want to serve your friends. Invite them to alchemiststation.com, but use your ambassador link so I can track it, so I can give you credit, so I can be like, you hooked me up. Like, thank you so much. Like, that's why the platform is growing. And it helps that I'm literally delivering on what I say I'm going to deliver on. I'm
Oh,
giving free
absolutely.
courses that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm getting top speakers to donate free courses because they want to get on my podcast. So I'll just tell people, like, you want to be on my podcast? You got to donate a course, bro. Like, that's how you get on.
I love it. I love it, Gualter. I love the grind, man. I love to see you doing so well. It's really been an honor having you here, man, and being able to pick your brain a little bit. And um, the book is broke to a quarter million. Story, rags to riches. And much more than just real estate. It's a great book, man. You can pick it up, read it on a Sunday afternoon. Um, Especially if you're from the Northeast. I think if you're from the Northeast, you'll get that authenticity. You'll get that real punch, from this book. So, dude, great to have you here. I hope there's something I can do to return the favor. I hope I can see you out down south. Or next time you're up north, man, hit me up and we'll get together.
Hell yeah, James. Love to hang out with you, brother. Anytime you're down in Tampa, just hit me up. We'll go get some lunch, go down to Armature Works. I'm looking to do a project in Fall River right now, actually, to pay back and pay forward in the city. So there's a big development I'm doing. It's still under contract. I'm getting approval from the city. But once I do it, my goal is to bring at least 100 jobs to the city. Set this thing up 100, 150 jobs to the city. And um, it's, one of those things where I'm like, I still want to contribute. Even though I don't want to live there, I don't like the weather. I swear to God, it's the weather.
It really
But
is.
I still want to contribute to my city.
Yeah,
We still
absolutely.
own 50 units there, so
Yeah, I'm
just
all
paying it
about it
forward,
too,
man.
man. I'm all about it too. So it's great to have you here,
Cool,
Gualter.
keep
Keep
going.
pushing the fight, brother. Good to see you, man. Cheers.
Appreciate you, James. Cheers.
See you, bro.